Welcome back. It's time to do something, well, actually productive with our Twitter bot. So what can we do here? Well, I want to create a bot. This bot is going to be, well, you want to be really nice to your followers and you want to follow back people. If you actually look, I'm pretty horrible. I only have 6 people that I'm following. But if I had to go through all my followers and follow every single one of them, that's over 10,000 clicks. That's a pretty manual task. Can we do that with our bot? Well, yeah, you can. So let's do a super generous bot. So this generous bot is always going to follow back. How can we build this? Well, we simply loop and say for follower in, and then here Tweepy gives us something called a cursor. Now, what is this cursor? If we go to the documentation here and I type in cursor, we'll get, well, an actual cursor tutorial. If we read here, we see that we use pagination in a lot of Twitter API. So whether we're going through timelines or user lists or messages, we have to click through different pages, right? Usually there's a lot of followers or a lot of timeline information. So the cursor allows us to, well, essentially in an easy way, go through everything on Twitter, whether it's through an entire timeline or through an entire followers list. And they even give you a nice tutorial of how to use it. You can see over here, for example, let's make this a little bit bigger. We see that we can use the tweepy.cursor to do API user timeline.items to grab all the items on the timeline. So with the Tweepy cursor, we can actually do API.followers to grab all the followers. And then we simply do .items so that we can loop through all the followers. Now, with this followers, well, let's just print them out. Now, I'm going to print followers, or follower in this case, because we're looping through here, and then just say .name. Now, the problem here is that when we do something like this, when let's say we're looping through a lot of things, we're going to be hitting the API over and over and over. And Twitter is not going to like that. I mean, this is a simple example, but when we constantly hit the Twitter API, that's hitting the Twitter servers, which Twitter has to pay for. And if everybody in the world hit the Twitter API over and over and over fast with, let's say, Python, that, as we know, on machines runs really fast, well, it's going to overload the servers and it's going to cost them a lot of money or crash the servers. So they actually implement something called a rate limit, where I'm only allowed to request the Twitter API, let's say every couple of milliseconds, so that it doesn't crash the server. And Tweepy actually allows us to work with this Twitter rate limit. So if I type in here, rate limiter, there's actually an error. You can see over here the rate limit error, which is raised when the API method fails due to hitting the Twitter's rate limit. Tweepy over here allows us to use the rate limit error to say, hey, if we hit this error, let's do something. So I'm going to create a little helper function. I'm going to say define limit handle. So we're going to handle here the limit. And we're going to pass it the cursor, which is, again, the cursor that's going to paginate or go through the entire data of API followers. And we're going to do a while loop that says, while this is true, just keep yielding cursor dot next. Because cursor is a generator. However, whenever we keep calling next here, which by the way, internally, this is what the cursor is doing, is just constantly calling next and just keeps going until we finish our followers. However, if this is not the case, well, in that case, I'm going to say except, and we're going to wrap this in a try block actually. So I'm going to say try here, so we can catch this error. So try while true, and then except if we get a tweepy.rate limit error. Well, in that case, I want to pause and not hit the Twitter API so that we don't get in trouble and come back to it when we have finally gave it a bit of time. So we can actually do that with a built-in module in Python called time. And time allows us to do something really useful here. I can do something called sleep, which essentially says, hey, just pause this, whatever it's happening, just stay on this line for a few milliseconds. So if we do 1000, that's 1000 milliseconds or 1 second. So now we have a limit handle, or we can call it limit handler. And if we wrap the limit handler, which receives a cursor, so that is, we just wrap this entire thing, like so. Let's make this a little bit bigger. There we go. We now are able to not abuse and make sure that if we hit the rate limit, we take a bit of a pause instead of just getting errors. So let's see if that worked. I'm going to save and run our piece of code. Let's clear here and run this. All right, do you see how it's pausing right now? So as soon as we hit the rate limit, it pauses and it just keeps going. And there you go. It's printing out all the followers that I have. That's pretty cool, right? Now, I'm actually going to stop this because, well, it's still going through it. But what we can do now is we can actually follow back each of these individual people. Now, in my case, I'm not on Twitter that much, so let's just follow somebody here at random. Let's follow this user right here. I'm going to copy this user's name like this, and I'm going to do something fun here. I'm going to say if follower.name is equal to this person, well then, in that case, I want to follow this person. So I'm going to say follow, which allows me to follow the user. If I save this and run my code, it's running. Like I say, it takes a bit of time because it has to go through the entire list. But I'm going to pause the video, and when this is done, we're going to see if this worked.